Okay, so we'll start off. I'll just introduce myself, and then Peter can introduce himself coming forward, and the others are introducing themselves on chat. So I'm Marco Gil-Cervantes. I'm the Chief Exec of Promo Cymru. So Promo Cymru, we've been working in the field of digital probably 20 years at least. So I've been sort of using digital in one way or another. And I think we were involved in the transition from going back enough from paper to digital. So when we first started working in information, it was actually paper, folders passed around from one centre to another. And as digital kicked in and you're working with young people, you just realised, no, that's just not the way to work. So, and that's carried on and on as we progressed. And it's just always amazes me where all this is going, and it's continuing. And I always feel that we're working hard to understand what's developing as young people, just not all, but they quickly pick up what's new. And that world now for me is just, I think, it's just the norm really, generally. So so we set this title, Do We Scrap Digital? So to make it a bit provocative, and people think about what do we need to do. You know, I think there's a lot of debate about where we go with digital. Do we use it? Do we all run straight back face to face and don't do any digital anymore, etc. So that's kind of what we're going from. So I'm just going to set. Oh, sorry. I'm going to now go. If I'm going to go to frame 2 of that Jamboard, and this I just quickly run through what we're going to do and try and go fast because we don't have a lot of time. And some of the questions we're going to ask you, just your quick thoughts. So we've done the introductions, and now I'm going to do the introduction on the session and use the use of Jamboard. So you're signing up. So Peter's going to just go quickly through the context of the board report and the digital group and what that's been doing. There's a couple of questions on your experiences, some listings of old, new to develop, and some of questions about the support resources required, and maybe some questions on what does hybrid mean, and just some conclusions. So this is a quick kind of session really to get our feedback, and these discussions actually will largely carry on in some way through the digital group. So there's kind of potential for people who wanted to be more involved to be at some level involved in the digital group that meets with Dusty Kennedy at the moment. So I'll pass over to you, Pete. And the next slide is next on Jamboard is number 3, context.
Great, thanks, Marco. Thanks, Marco. So just myself, I'm Peter Williams. I work for the Vale Glamorgan Youth Service. I've got a bit of background in IT and digital engagement from before I started doing youth work, and that's helped me with my interest in it going forwards, really, into this role and things. So, like Marco said, we've been doing a few bits with the digital SBG group over the last couple of years. So I'll just give you a bit of an introduction on this. So if everyone can go, like Marco said, to slide 3 on the Jamboard, that'll be a great starting point. It just covers the main 4 areas I'll cover in this brief context element. So as part of the Interim Youth Work Board, there were a number of strategic participation groups, which have been mentioned already this morning, looking at certain elements of youth work in Wales. One of the ones that we became involved with was the Digital Youth Work Group. This was initially set up back in around November 2019. And its membership is made up of a number of different partners from across the voluntary and statutory youth work sector. So we do have quite good representation from different organisations and different local authorities. Since that point, the group has worked on areas around how digital youth work can grow, first of all, and also be supported in line with the work of the Interim Youth Work Board and the work of the other SPGs. So from the offset, the idea was that the aim of the digital group was to act as like a cross-cutting group across all the SPGs. And that was done in line with the Welsh language SPG as well. And the idea was that the 2 groups would work in partnership then to underpin a lot of the work that was planned. and the ideas of the other SPGs would have an element of digital in it as well as an element of Welsh language in it. So that's where it came across, first of all. When we began work back in 2019, obviously this was pre-COVID, and some of the barriers that we looked at, and we were looking at barriers to what made digital youth work, and made digital youth work a problem, really, and how we could overcome those on a national perspective. So they include things like challenging digital poverty, restrictions on use of technology by organisations, particularly with local authorities in those situations, and also identifying funding gaps and anywhere we could sort of help push that from a national perspective. With COVID, it did help the digital sector quite a lot with this element, because a lot of those initial barriers and pieces of work that we aimed to do were overcome quite early on. And due to those sort of rapid developments we saw across the sector, that sort of pushed a lot of those initial things through. So with that, then, the focus was more ensuring that what was delivered was done in a safe environment and followed elements of good practice where we could share between different organisations across the sector. So this has progressed onwards now, and we aim to sort of contribute to the future of youth work in Wales through the latest report that was mentioned by Keith earlier. Within that report, there are sort of two main recommendations that link in with this piece of work we're doing. One of them relates to recommendation 9, where Welsh Government should work with the sector to commission an information exchange for Wales as part of a digital youth work offer, as well as recommendation 5, which is where the Welsh Government should establish a national body for youth worker services in Wales. As much of the direction of the work we do within digital could well be supported by this national body. And we think that sort of having this sort of body in place could support and roll out good practice, roll out training potentially. A lot of things that were discussed earlier this morning could be supported by this. So with the report being published now and sort of waiting on feedback from the Minister, we find ourselves as a group looking forward to what our next steps are and what the group could potentially be like beyond the work that's been achieved so far. So what we're looking at doing in this workshop, like Mark has said, is explore the experience of working with young people. We want to know the good, the bad, the ugly, what's worked, what hasn't, to gain your feedback on this as a sector, and also see how digital youth work delivery sort of can be supported in the future, really. And if we want to sort of look at how, like Mark was saying, build that into the work going forward, is sort of some recommendations for how digital work could be improved across Wales as a national level. So I hope that's okay as a starting point for a bit of context. What we'll do is we'll move on to the next slide on the Jamboard now, please. So should we slide 4 at the top? And at the top, you've got 3 tabs.
Yeah, if I just explain, I've just quickly added the other 2 tabs, because I quickly talking about should we ban digital. So I know I'm creating a polarized thing. You don't have to. You can. So this slide, in number 4, is it's your general experiences, your thoughts about this. I suppose it's the period we've gone through and how you've adapted. There's more chance to do that. But also, if you have any strong thoughts on either keeping or banning, if you could do that as well. Do you want to carry on, Pete? Is that okay?
Yeah. Before we move on, just for those who haven't used Jamboard before, I'll briefly go through some of the features on what we're doing. So I'll just share my screen briefly, just show you what you can do with it in terms of engaging with the rest of the session. So if I just open up the Jamboard here. So at the top, you've got the navigation tab that go across all the different slides. On the left-hand side, then, is the ways you can engage with the content. So the easiest way is to click on a sticky note on the left-hand side, which is below the pointer. Click on that, type in your message. So, hello, you can change the color if you want to. Click on save, and then click cancel, and that will make it onto the page. You can then click and drag it around. So with this, you're looking at sort of elements of if you want to put your experiences, and then elements where you could keep it, areas where you want to ban it, and move from there. So then if you want to get rid of it, you can either edit it and change the text, or you can sort of edit and delete it then as well. Okay. that's just a basic use of how so the Jamboard layout works if you don't have that. Okay, so with that element then, so what we're looking at here is your experiences. So if you are able to sort of have a think of what experiences you have of digital youth work, whether it's pre-COVID or where some little experience before COVID, experienced it since the pandemic, could you have a look at adding in, please, some sticky notes, some comments, and just put elements under which bits of digital work you would keep and which bits you would get rid of and ban, really, for a starting point. It can be as big as or small. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, it's I put in, and I've had to just adjust it. I did realise there was something not right, and it should be now available to refresh or use this new link I've just put out.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so you need to refresh your thing. Sorry, I missed one tab on it.
So yeah, so if you can go in and start adding some sticky notes, or you've got text box options as well. If there's not enough room once you start building it in, then if you can just start stacking and layering on top of each other, there's no issue with that at all in the way it's set up. So the first one there, use of WhatsApp text message support. Yeah, I think that's been a great example that we've seen with our service. I know Marco with his team with Mae A already use a lot of the sort of digital messaging service, don't you, Marco?
Yeah, I think it's I suppose for having run, we're amazed that actually the mic service has run now for 10 years, which I can't really quite believe, but that's 10 years. And, you know, in a sense, that's kind of it's like a phone text instant message service. And what's interesting with that, it's about 2/3 of the contacts are either text or instant messaging. So only 1/3 is coming through phones. I think we always look at it. If anybody's got a chance to see the book, read the book from Lou Downs, Good Services, it's about providing all those different routes in. That's continues to work really well. What we're trying to work on now is actually how to make a connection from direct social media straight into the helpline. So if you imagine you don't have to say move from something like Instagram. From Instagram, you could go directly to an advisor, not have to go through a separate system. So that's what we're trying to work on at the moment.
So some great ideas coming out here. So looking at particularly some international opportunities. Yep, that's a brilliant example. So is that sort of around sort of utilising digital work in order to broaden horizons and sort of support contact between different countries? That'd be awesome. Closed Facebook groups, obviously an element of control within that and things. Some elements of games have come into both sides. So you've got Minecraft and things on the left side, and then some gaming tournaments, the Roblox on the right through ban. Some more detailed ones. That's an interesting one. A risk that young people will rely on online support rather than waiting for face-to-face. That's an interesting concept, I think. And
yeah, so it's quite interesting that we've got I don't know if it particularly sits under the ban, but there's ban TikTok, ban Snapchat, but there's a keep TikTok as well. So there's the two ends of that kind of thought process.
Yeah, and I think there's one there that sort of supports that, where it says embrace TikTok and all other social media platforms. So if young people use it, we need to be on it. And I think that's a fair point. That's one of the things that Marco was saying at the start, where this topic was meant to be a bit of a discussion point about whether we use this experience now over the last 18 months, 2 years, as a sort of a springboard into digital work, or whether as things ease and restrictions lift and things, do we go back into the face-to-face side and forget digital? And hopefully that will come through as we go through over the next couple of slides and things.
Yeah. So again, it was set out as a kind of to to create debate, really, to have discussion about it and thoughts about it, as opposed to not, because I think it's useful. Okay, we'll keep these recorded. These will be there, and you're going to be able to access this whenever you want to, because you've got the link. The link isn't going to change. So you could add if you wanted to further down the line. So we've got, it's 11. I realized that we started a bit earlier than we should have. I didn't kind of clock that. So hopefully people know everything and know where we are. So there's lots on there. I don't know. Let me just remind myself of the other. Okay, I think before we ask for anybody who has a specific comment to talk through their comment, we can do that later. Yeah, there's a whole range of stuff there and considerations, isn't there? You know, there's one, young people who may have social anxiety may prefer to online support sessions, but we should continue to encourage steps towards face-to-face. That's, for me, is a kind of a really important one, because again, it's I mean, what we've always tried to do, I know with Mike and others, and Lou Downs, if you ever get a chance to read it, Good Services is a seminal book on how to develop good services and digital, not just digital, but good services and digital. One of the things I think it might be a woman actually, says that exactly, as you develop services, you don't get rid of services that are already useful. So a good example is telephone. People sometimes are used to using a telephone. So when you create a digital service, doesn't mean you get rid of the telephone service, because you can still have a lot of access through that, or even so that's one. And what I've noticed often is I'm trying to contact a service and they've hidden the telephone number. I can't find the telephone number, and they've done completely the opposite. They've gone digital but hidden telephone number, which I find completely frustrating, because I can't find the answer on the digital, and then they hide the telephone number. So that's something we're always very keen on, is never hiding the telephone number. Okay, so we're going to move now to is that okay, Pete? We'll move to the next one, and then we can come back if we need to. So if you go to number 5, you may find that a lot that you've actually put into number 4 may need to either, might be able to copy, I don't know, maybe not. You may have to write again. Sorry, mine's reloading for some reason.
So with this slide 5, there's 4 categories. So what we've got is we tried to break it up into different areas. So old work which has been done for potentially years, but it doesn't work, and get rid of it. So what would you see within practice you would like to get rid of because you're doing it because you feel like you have to, but in actual fact doesn't actually work, doesn't get many engagements, it's not a productive and engaging service? That's the first box, the yellow. The green tab then is old pieces of work that have been doing for a period of time. However, you want to keep them because they are engaging well, they are working well, and there's no real issues with them, so there's no changes required. Moving on to the blue then, we're looking at old pieces of work again. However, there are needs for areas for development, whether that's developing in terms of the way in which it runs, maybe embracing some wider tools that you could help support that provision, or whether it's a case of merging it with other pieces of work. So whether you've got a bit of a new idea that could merge in with that to develop the old to make it a bit more up to date. And the final then with the pink on the right is a new box. So these are things that we want to look at in terms of experimenting. What's not been done before? What have you seen that's been done in other authorities or other counties, other countries potentially across the world? What could it be that or it could be a different sector completely. Like if you're already engaging with a different sector for a different piece of work, is there something within that that could support youth work online in a digital fashion? It's something that we as a digital world haven't engaged with yet. But so what new elements could come under that? Was there anything else you wanted to add to that, Marco?
No, that's it. It's interesting to see the comments coming through, and then I put in there like in the debate and complexity, because I think that's what we're trying to think about. Really, is I don't think if we had the answer, we wouldn't really need to talk, because we just get on and do stuff. But I think it is a complex, and we have to start from complexity to get somewhere. So I think it's thinking all those elements through.
Mentioned there as well, but are we just talking about digital youth work? In a way, yes. However, there might be some old-fashioned things that we currently use that may sort of benefit from being updated into a digital manner. So there are some elements that may still work in old-fashioned paper copy. However, do young people want a letter to take home with them, or would they rather being able to access a consent form or a letter or something online? So it's these elements here. So it may have a bit of offline, but it may also build on the digital side when you sort of compare with those two, really.
I think sometimes if you think about it if we think about it in our own lives, there's questions about when do I want to go into the bank face to face, and when don't I need to go into the bank, and when would it be unnecessary for me to do that, and when do I actually want to go in and have a face-to-face meeting, bank or another service? I think services are different. It's not I'm suggesting that banking is youth work and banking is the same, but yeah. And then there are some people putting in things that are the cross themes in a sense, because you've got like digital equality. That's kind of, so there's a equality agenda there in terms of how do you make sure it works, and I know there's thoughts there about, I think the idea that all young people have absolute whiz at social media is not the case. There's a lot of young people and they are driving it forward, but there's some that are not that. There's a lot of young people who can quite easily get caught out. As adults as well, we can as well. But I think it's knowing, and that's kind of about knowing. It's knowing what it does and how to avoid being caught off guard, and how to avoid both a whole set of both financial, emotional abuse, the whole lot really is. We know that's happening. There is a Welsh Internet Safety Partnership, if anybody's interested. I'm the chair of that, and it's quite interesting what turns up there really, and the realities of the online world for young people, and the realities and the dangers that are there, which I think are probably greater than we realise. Only because we're not there, or I'm not a young person. I don't every day when I have talked to some young people, I am astounded of what sometimes I'm told. I'm told actually it's all there. Anything you want or anything you don't want is there, whether you like it or not. And I think that is a reality. That is a reality for young people. They're faced all the time, but also there's a lot of knowledge from young people about how to deal with it, because if they didn't know, I think we'd have a way bigger problem. But it is there. That doesn't mean they all know it, but there is a kind of understanding. Oh, you don't react to that kind of post, because that kind of post is going to give you, that kind of person is already digging for information from you. If they're digging for information from you, you should ban them straight away. And that's what I often hear, but there's a lot of young people that don't know that all and do get caught out for various reasons, as they do in face-to-face real life work as well. There's other dangers, I suppose, from digital, but it's understanding the nuances.
There's some really interesting points being raised on here. So, particularly in terms of the old wanting to keep and no change required, that list, even though it has sort of got some generic things like sort of face-to-face work, youth club buildings, and making sure that we still use buildings facilities, there's quite a few elements within that which sort of cross over into the development. Someone just put, can we get a copy of these? Yes. So what will happen is, at the end of this, like Marco said, you still have the link to this, so this will stay a live Jamboard afterwards, so you can still access these points afterwards. All right. Sorry, go on, Marco.
No, I was just saying, this will also be fed into the digital group, and all the work integrated health board, and this is not going to be lost. That's the beauty of this. It's like it's kind of as a great record. It's a great record to reflect back on as well.
One of the points in here around, I lost where it was now. A lot about involving outdoor activities and things, which would be nice to include more of. And have an online resource which hosts ideas of digital youth work. So that's in the new column. Yeah, and I think from the work that we've been undertaking as part of the digital group and going forward with the lots of plans we have later on, and potentially if the National Youth Work Organisation is sort of followed up with following the recommendations, that is definitely something that we'd be sort of looking to push forward as a sort of potential resource on there, and linked in with the CPD element and those elements with that. So yeah, I think that's a growth with that is a really important point, and it should be an organisation and a resource that the profession should be able to benefit from in order to benefit the young people that we work with. And it would be, and then same with the stuff we do within the digital group, we want what we focus on going forward to be beneficial to you as practitioners, which is why we're doing this activity today, in order to gain your viewpoint, to gain the opinions, and sort of get a bit more of an insight about what you think works, what doesn't work, and how we can work to move forward. Are there any other points?
I'm just gonna, so in terms of I'm just saying that what looks old, paperback forms. It's quite interesting. Old is one comment I think is really strong there is only face-to-face work as being old. So it's not the face-to-face work is old. It's only having face-to-face would be old. I think paperback forms. I'm not so sure, because I think some people, I always think in terms of how does a variety of people, how do they all deal with things. So we want to keep face-to-face, we want to keep posters, youth clubs and buildings, we want to keep that. Outdoors, keep that. And then old to keep needs developing, or the buildings, facilities, always a problem. Face-to-face work needs to keep developing, recording data. Yes, there's a number of developments, and then new ones that are not done before, which I'm always interested in, is digital consent forms, accounts for young people so they can access all digital services on. I'm not sure why you need accounts to do that. Obviously, so mine's updating itself, so I can't see it now. I don't know why. Maybe you're also busy writing in there. I put in artificial intelligence and machine learning. I think that's kind of an area where we're only touching upon. We were going to do some work with Warwick University around this, but some of the data issues were still quite new, and they couldn't do it this year. What we were thinking is how do we understand where young people may be struggling, or what groups of young people are finding difficulties, say with mental health. What if you think of Instagram, what words are people using? How could we increase the use of our messaging to be more effective by using machine learning to understand what's the most effective way of communicating? Podcast, TikTok, have an online resource, youth work in schools, co-production. Yeah, so together with co-production, I think we do a lot of work around service design, which kind of they link together. Great. Okay. So we've got 2 more to go, and then we'll do these quickly. So if we move into the next one, some thoughts in terms of what, that's number 6 now, some thoughts around what hybrid it's not a car. Or is it? Lee Jacobson, if you could email me your interest, or Peter, interest in the digital group. If you haven't already gone, that would be good. I'm not sure if I'll remember to keep all this off here, or I'll be able to. Yeah, so as they come in,
I'll make a note of it.
Okay, as it's coming through hybrid, it's a mixture of digital and face-to-face. So now we're already, so does that mean that we don't have to ditch digital and actually we kind of join everything together? Best of both worlds, a balance, blended approach, inclusive. Inclusive is interesting to me because it's interesting to think, how could we use digital to be more inclusive? Because my feeling is that a lot of young people often don't know that they have services around the corner. So how can we use digital to make sure that all young people know what's available for them, so they can, and there's a whole other questions there. How do you do it? How do you do it right? How do you get that happening? But I do know is many don't know, so when we talk about universal, if you don't even know there's a service available, how do we work towards a universal service? Can we, and if you live in more rurally, how does that work? How does all those up? So joined up, I like the joined up. So I'm very interested in the joining up of the digital world with the face-to-face world. How do we make sure those links are there? They should not be separate worlds. They're really, there's tools that help each other. It's like, so I think that's a really key thing, is how do we join them up? How do we make sure that someone can transfer from one place to another place without getting lost, without getting what they, I think in marketing terms is often called multiple touch points. So as a young person, how can they have access multiple access points into services, and then be able to choose the access points that they feel comfortable with? Someone saying access, sometimes not assuming all young people don't have access to digital, hence we need the multiple access points to include all. I personally, I think we're in a position that the pandemic has definitely made us think. It's definitely made us move really fast into the digital world. I mean, I'm really happy to see. I mean, I think I think something that I personally and the organisation has been pushing for a long time, and it's great to see the move forward. And I think people say, we've learned we've gone forward a good 5, maybe 10 years. A development in a very short period of time, but within that, I think we're all still learning, and I think we're testing. So I think we need to reflect on what has worked, what hasn't worked. Be prepared to say, well, that hasn't worked. What do we need to learn more? But I think my other point is that we may have gone forward 5 or 10 years, But I think as a sector, we were probably 20 or 30 years behind. So I think we still have a fair way to go. But it's great to see people's interest and to that.
The other thing to add into that as well, Marco, is the elements of barriers in place by organisations. Like I know my experience from a local authority perspective is that corporate IT departments are quite reluctant to release control and to allow the trialing of new ways of working, new tools for engagement, even down to a case with us sort of having to use Teams for engagement rather than Zoom. And at the start of the pandemic, Zoom was a lot more popular than Teams was. So all those elements do come into it. And as a sector, I think from a national perspective, if there was the opportunity to have some sort of higher level, wider influence to be able to sort of present guidance documents to be able to work safely and present ways of working that ensure that organisations remain safety secure and things, and the elements aren't impacted by that, but is also able to adapt to the needs of young people, which is what the ultimate thing is here, is that young people want to engage through certain tools or media, whatever it is, but the organisation won't let us. If there's an organisation there that will sort of represent and fight for those sort of needs of young people on a wider level, hopefully that'll help direct organisations to give up a bit more slack and give a bit more freedom to organisations to try playing around with things.
And I know that's some of the thought processes taking place in the digital group that is related to the youth work, interim youth work board, and then going forward into the board. And I think for me that's kind of crucial. I think that because all that is about making sure you put the young person's needs highmost, and I always find it strange where Starbucks often have sorted out access to internet and they see it as normal, and yet some services find it difficult to do that. And you think, so where are we with this? If Starbucks can do it, and yet we, so I think it's but it is about doing that and getting, as you say, everybody on board with the idea of do it safely. That's our role, is to learn, do safely, and provide that. That's, as I always find as youth workers, our role is not to run away, but actually be part of it and learn and develop those processes and systems to make things happen. So if we move on to the number 7 is support and resources. So this is about the kind of thinking through everything you've mentioned, what other support elements you require or you think important, and any specific resources. I know money's always going to appear. I wouldn't put money too many times. So try, because I think we'll have to take that one for granted. But in terms of, you can be more specific, would be useful, specific kind of things that would be required. We are also waiting for the response from the Minister about some of those recommendations, and there's some very strong recommendations in the Interim Youth Work Board about digital information, etc. We've been involved with ERICA, the European Regional Youth Information Council Agencies, about 25 countries involved in that. And I think, unfortunately, we've fallen behind when it comes to, I know for youth information, where we have, Wales has fallen way behind. And you have small islands like Malta beating us, so it's kind of Luxembourg way ahead, and so, but that doesn't, we've been, I think where we're behind is the coordination of it all. It's not that individuals and individual youth services or individual organizations aren't doing great work, but we seem to be still quite in isolation from each other, and also not sort of supporting the whole sector-wide development of how this could go forward.
So most of the points so far have been within support. Yeah, and the main resource that's been identified so far is the funding or lack of it. Some interesting points there about the greater use of Hub and the Hub accounts and things. Be able to set up and create teams on Hub, use Google Classrooms with young people, but often only schools can do this, yeah, absolutely, with sort of limitations on that. Great to deliver accredited opportunities through that, yeah. And again, this is beyond sort of the scope of potentially what we do in terms of youth work delivery. However, more and more accredited opportunities are expanding the way they are able to accredit work online. A lot of them now have ways of being able to sort of assess and mark through online portfolios, online workbooks. Some of them even have sort of full virtual learning environments where they've got that built into it. So why can't youth work sort of incorporate those sort of techniques, those resources again, to be able to deliver those opportunities rather than having to print off a workbook and have a paper copy, which for some people doesn't work. Some people prefer a paper workbook. Again, this is where the needs of that young person comes first, and it should be directed based on those needs. What else we got there? Training's cropped up a couple of times in there as well. Absolutely. And I think training across the board is probably one of the weaker areas from my perspective and things in my experience is sort of what training is out there. I know it was within our service, our universal team utilised some of the promo Cymru delivery courses they delivered for us early on in the pandemic, just to be able to get our teams up to scratch with those situations and those skills. However, it should be something that should be built in to the wider youth work training curriculum as such, and maybe something that we look to sort of work with and incorporate into youth work training from sort of level 2, level 3 upwards.
So in terms of training, just to let you know, something is developing that we're involved with, as in Promo Cymru, Wales Co-op and WCVA. It's mainly, well, it is for the third sector, but there is also a Centre for Public Design Services that is mainly working around service design, but that will be offering support to people. So we're doing more the service design elements, WCVA doing more the resources, and Wales Cops are doing more the leadership around digital. So that'll be, I think the launch of that'll be about 2 weeks. So why I'm mentioning that, because a lot of the third sector youth organisations will be able to access that. I'm keen to work with statutory as well, but there is also that Centre for Digital Public Services that is far more resourced than this one to do that. But I can provide that. And I'm always, so one thing I've spoken to the Centre for Public Digital Services, and thing is even the thought around digital for youth and how that happens, because they have resources to think about that and how to do that. One of the things we'll be doing is like sector-wide challenges as well. So, you know, I need to talk with the digital group and others in terms of one of the sector-wide challenges could be a sector-wide challenge around digital and youth information. That we could start to work with different people to look at that as a challenge. The challenge is, how do we do it? What's the next steps? But that's early days at the moment. But that'd be yeah. Interesting that the hub comes up, and we work with the hub. A lot of micro resources on the hub. We're working with them on consulting with lots of young people in terms of the language that young people use with social media, because sometimes the resources are written in a language where young people don't recognize the language as being used. So we're kind of doing that work at the moment. I think the hub is really a great resource, and it needs to be, and I think they are working on access for the youth services from that as well. Personally, my criticism of the hub at the moment is too kind of it's too focused on the educator, and I don't think the resources are that well suited directly to a young person, whereas previously youth information services have been focused directly on the young person, so the young person accessing and how they understand it. So there's a slight difference there. I think that's where I think a youth information service has to be fully kind of done. As I always look at it, is a young person should be able to come to that service and feel at home and being able to fully contribute.
And there's some points there about sort of access and hub and things. I know as a local authority, we're quite fortunate to be able to access it through our education IT department. But again, it's where the youth service, if it's a local authority service, sits, first of all, whether you've got that relationship with education. And then for obviously the voluntary sector, then there are some additional barriers then that come into that.
Okay. Yeah. So I think with, again, all these comments, we can take forward and pass them on, because they all sort of, I think they're really important to that infrastructure of how all this works. Because I don't think it is, I think it doesn't work when it's in isolation. It has to work with the youth services, the hub. How does that help out? How does, how do all these things join together? I always say, as a young person don't discriminate in terms of they don't go and look for a service. They tend to look for help, and they don't say, I'm only going to go to this place or that place. And I think we have to be mindful of that. That's not, this isn't about service led, it's about a young person led service that makes the, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to just go to a last diagram, and then maybe we can try and ask for voices for people who would like to speak and say something after this before we don't. So the last one, I've just put a diagram up in terms of youth work environment, and I think it kind of is echoed in a lot of the comments that we've had there, that really, I think now clearly digital is part of that youth work environment. It's not separate to it, it's integral to it, and that in a sense these different, and these different elements of digital outreach, activities, external youth clubs, they actually all should work hand in hand. They all provide different different things and similar things in a different way. How do you create pathways between each one? So if someone was to contact you digitally, they need to, I would say, someone contacts you and they need to be able to go further along or they need to feel they need to meet someone face to face. That's about how do you direct them to the right face to face service quickly. I've often heard of a lot of centres, physical centres being called hubs, which I always find it, well, hub tends to be like a tech term. So if you're in a centre, do you actually want someone to come to your centre even if they live 30 miles away, and so they come 30 miles to your centre and then turn up at the wrong time or to the wrong place? Wouldn't we want to let them know where to go, as opposed to having to get on the bus and spend all that time to turn up at the wrong time or whatever? So we would want to guide them. Ideally, the ideal situation is every young person could walk around the corner and get a youth service, but I'm not sure how, can we make that a reality? I'm not so sure. But we can sort of make those processes and create the pathways from one to another, and not see them personally, and not see them as separate entities, see them as a joined entity that is there to provide services to young people. So that's my speech over. And I don't think I have anything to say. I think we could now, there is a way of inviting people to speak. I don't know if you remember how to do that. I think you press something.
Yes. So if anyone's got any points they'd like to elaborate on from any of the slides, then if you'd like to, at the top right-hand side of the screen, there should be a little blue button for you that says request access for sound and video or something along those lines. If you click on that, it pops up for us and then we approve that. We can only have a maximum of 9 people on the video sharing screen, so 2 of those taken up by us already. So there's only sort of 7 or 8 slots left.
And you can come in, have a say, and then other people can come in. But please do and have a go. Just you could just expand on one of your points.
No problem, Chloe. If you want to add some comments in the chat, if you want to expand on anything, that's fine as well. And we can always bring those into the conversation as we go. Oh, here we are. So, Juliana.
Hey, I just didn't want to thinking you were alone here.
I thought I was.
I find this quite difficult, the online, myself personally, when I'm engaging with something. So it's not something that I'm quite natural in. So it's really interesting to see, other youth workers' point of view on how they develop that programme with young people as well. So that's been really interesting. And the points on the third sector, there's a few points being made. And again, I think that's a sector where there is less accessibility and possibly less funding and resources able to be put into developing these types of programmes. So I think that's a real key area to be looking at further down the line as well. I know you said about the training with WCVA and things, but funding is always a big issue, and especially now with the extra barriers they faced, not having those additional support systems that maybe statutory organisations have. And again,
where are you from, Juliana?
From Amford area in Carmarthenshire.
And it's voluntary youth service, is it?
No, at the moment, I've stepped out of youth work practice a few years ago, and I'm started now my masters, so I'm coming back into the youth work practice again.
Okay.
So, but having worked with a lot of the third sector organisations, particularly in like Upper Am and Valleys, I do think that's a sector that really could do with reinvesting, because a lot of statutory agencies are not kind of working on the fringes of the counties. So I think a lot of the work that's being done in delivering youth face-to-face contact then is with local volunteers. So it's really important to get that training into communities as well.
It's quite interesting that actually different sectors have different challenges.
Yeah.
So the voluntary sector will have a status. I have worked in statutory, mostly in the third sector and voluntary sector, and as I continue, then I come across people like Peter, who we speak, and then I realise a whole other set of challenges there. That is not, it's, and I think where we are now in the whole youth sector is that actually having the third sector and the statutory sector talking a bit more, because I think they obviously have things to offer each other, but also I think it's important to understand each other's challenges. Because I think sometimes it's very easy to sort of sit on one side and think, well, we got the problems or we got the solutions. And I don't think that's going to help us.
No, and like I said, when you were talking earlier about the restraints, having worked in statutory sector as well, about the restraints of using social media or technology to kind of engage with young people. Again, that's something I've come across. And like you said, it is about working together. And that is the way forward, as Keith has mentioned as well. So thank you.
No, thank you. Anyone else got any comments they wanted to bring in on that, or any other points that we've made so far in this session?
I'd like to have some disagreements, please.
Who wants to get rid of digital youth work completely? Kristen. Yeah.
Aha.
We got a lot.
There we go. Yeah, the timing right there. When I had requested access, it wasn't because I wanted to scrap it all together. But I just find it interesting from like the experiences of working with young people in lockdown through the digital formats. It was kind of learning on the job, if you know what I mean, in a lot of aspects, because it was so new. But I do wonder, like, I know like there's hopefully more funding for youth work, but I don't know whether I have a fear of whether will digital replace the face-to-face engagement, basically, for many reasons, whether that could be around costs, resources and things like that. And I do fear will digital ever be able to be sufficiently replace? Well, I don't think it will be able to replace, obviously, that face-to-face engagement, but that's just that fear for me, really.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, Chris. From my experience and my viewpoint, I can't see digital replacing face-to-face because as youth workers, we naturally enjoy that sort of face-to-face contact. And I personally find it easier to engage face-to-face than digitally. And especially when you look at some of the comments made earlier around sort of digital fatigue and things, if schools are doing more of it and young people engaging online is a more of a frequent situation, that young people will just eventually stop engaging unless we can provide an exciting and invigorating service to provide digitally. And there are some situations where that would be absolutely possible and will be best suited to a digital environment. But sometimes I think there will always be a need for a face-to-face youth service offer, whether that's in the community, in a setting, through outreach, detached, whatever kind of provision is being offered. I think there will always be a need for that sort of face-to-face provision in some way, shape or form.
As a big supporter of digital, I would be very sad to think that face-to-face would be endangered in any way by digital. I mean, I think I'm probably the first one to talk about digital, but that does not mean that in any way do I think it should replace face-to-face. I think it should completely enhance the whole, both ways. And that's why I've kind of put that youth work environment together as a one thing, because I purposefully tried to put that title and should be scrapped, because I think we often talk in binaries. Do we have digital or do we have face-to-face? Do we scrap it? Do we keep it? So I created that dialogue to make it kind of do that. But I totally think it's the wrong way to look at it. It's all about how does all this enhance stuff. If someone contacts us digitally, whether by phone or instant message, our challenge is to get that young person to if they want face-to-face, to get them to that face-to-face service as fast as we can. Not to hold them, not to, it's nothing to do with holding them. It's about getting them to where they need to be. So that's our philosophy, is never to keep them there, only to keep them there if they want to keep there. But in terms of the pathways, and again, that book by Lou Downs is quite clear, is about how do we get them there? But I also know, as I mentioned earlier, is some young people don't know there's a face-to-face service around the corner. Yeah, they don't know that they're there. So in a sense, if digital can help to make those connections and let young people know that this is around the corner, or this is available to you, or that's available to you, then it's just going to really help. I think we've gone through an odd patch. The COVID has been an odd patch. I don't think we're never going to stay in that space. I think we did things that we had to do. Mm-hmm. Some of it was just to fill that hole there, but it won't stay like that. We'll learn from it. And I think when someone said to me, "What are we going to be prepared for the next kind of COVID possibilities?"
Yeah. Great. Thanks, bro.
Thanks, Chris. So there's a couple of comments in the chat going forward as well about sort of building that in as sort of pushing to get back to face-to-face. It should be a both option, and that's just comments we've had there. Caris has put, personally I find that youth engage less online and have more of a shorter attention span. Would you disagree with that comment, and why? I do find from feedback we've had in our service that digital doesn't have the same sort of pickup, particularly now. At the start, it was quite good engagement because there was something less limited, but there were more limitations in place, and there was some less options and things. However, I think overall, particularly with how much has been done digitally online over the last 18 months, young people are a bit fed up with it. Now, whether that would improve over the next sort of year, 2 years, 5 years, where face-to-face delivery in schools, for example, is increasing again, we may see more of an engagement online. I'm not really sure. Marco, do you have anything to add on that one?
I think you're right. I think we've gone through a particular moment in time. We've kind of all, I know personally, given half the chance, I'm out there and I'm meeting people and doing what I can. I don't want to spend all my time sitting in a room doing this, kill me off. But so again, it's just tools. And I think probably, it is have shorter attention span, probably, if you're trying to do more intense work, do that. I mean, in other ways, actually, I find sometimes it can work the other way around. You can be quite, I find it sometimes too intense working in this way. I feel like I need to go to an environment where there's other people there, so I can have that social. So my need for social is to get away from the intensity, not from, it's kind of too much. Humans are social animals, aren't we? We have to be with other people, or we quickly lose a lot.
We've got another couple of people sat waiting to come in, so I'll bring them in. So apologies if I pronounce this wrong. Ajaya?
Hey all, it's Agia. No worries. I'm from YMCA Swansea, and I was just going to say, I don't think that digital work will ever replace face-to-face. I think we need to embrace the fact that we are able to deliver this online now. That's something that we didn't do before. We don't have to travel to places. We can connect people globally now. As YMCA Swansea, we are part of a global movement. We've been in a position to connect young people from across the world. That's something we didn't do before, or if we did, that was very limited opportunities because of the funding. Now all we have to do is turn on our computers, and we're able to talk to people across the world. I think seeing the notes and everything that was posted earlier on about saying banning, certain social media platforms, I think that kind of goes in a way against what we stand for. We're here to empower young people, and if young people say, Snapchat is the way that I want to communicate, we need to learn what's the best way we can do that and make sure that young people are safe there. It's about making sure they use those tools in their advantage. So instead of saying Snapchat is bad, you don't follow things on TikTok, it's about building that resilience. And yes, if you do follow people on Snapchat or Instagram, what things do you follow? How do you keep yourself safe? Because as youth workers, I always think that, we empower young people, we give them the tools to make sure that when we're not here, if we're not here, they're going to be able to live happy and healthy lives. If YMCA Swansea, for let's say, closes and there's no support for young people in Swansea provided by YMCA Swansea, those young people should have the skills to know that these are the things that would be good to do. These are the things that maybe they shouldn't follow, and if they do follow, what's the best way of dealing with these things? And if their friend comes up with an issue, how can they support that friend? Because maybe they were not part of a youth service before. I think that's the main thing for me, just empowering the young people, making sure that they can engage in social media and digital platforms. As YMCA Swansea, when the lockdown hit, we really quickly moved to digital platforms, and we were able to deliver services. I think we did a lot of things, and we learned from our own mistakes. We realized that, we can't have 20, 30 young people attending the same session, because that's not quality service. Young people speaking over each other, they're not being able to engage fully. That means we just really look at how we do things. We do smaller group sessions, more sessions, and that means our resources need to change. I think just this has really, really empowered us as YMCA Swansea, to make sure that we can deliver services online and face-to-face. We have returned to face-to-face work, and we did a lot of face-to-face work during all lockdowns, because if people were in emergency, we were there for them anyway. So I think it's just working together. And I think this is a place for us to share our best practice, and going forward, how do we utilize both digital and face-to-face? That's all I had to say, really.
Well said.
Brilliant.
I think social media channels, young people are there whether we like it or not. I have lots of concerns about how that works. At the same time, I know there's a lot of predators there in those spaces. There are predators there looking for weak links, etc. And I always find if there's a predators there, I think we need to be there as well to support and to help young people and guide young people and give them an alternative and support when they want it. Otherwise, I think I
definitely agree with you there. I think, social media is a place where predators are going to be. But if you think about it, reality is that predators are everywhere. You could be going to Tesco's, doing your food shop, as a young carer who doesn't have an adult with them and they're doing the weekly food shop and they can be a predator there. It's about us, again, empowering young people and informing them of what to do in these instances and what's the best way to deal with things, regardless of whether it's a social media platform or face-to-face. I think that's, again, it's just us providing those tools.
Agree.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got Annette. Shall I bring you in as well?
Hi. No, I was just going to bring up the points that have just been brought up now, actually. Saying, it doesn't matter where you are really, whether that's online or face-to-face. But as a youth service, I don't know whether on Anglesey we're a bit behind the times or we're not tech-savvy enough. We discussed going into, moving to, trying digital youth work with young people before the pandemic. Unfortunately, pandemic hit. We didn't get a chance. So we continued face-to-face. And then we tried to build, and then red tape, obviously local authority, etc. It was really, really difficult for us to get online. And when we did, we found the young people, they weren't engaging, because going back to what you said, Peter, about overload, they found it very, very, they were online all day doing their teaching, learning there. And they found it extremely difficult then to focus and couldn't be bothered really engaging online in the evenings or weekends with us. However, we have now been able to open the clubs, and we've got, I think, the enrollments are as high as ever, at its highest. And that, having spoken to them, they have said, they much prefer face-to-face. And yeah, that's the point I was going to say anyway.
Yeah, great, thanks, Annette. I think the reinforcement then from those young people is that there is still a need for face-to-face.
Absolutely, yeah.
And like we said before, there's no way of digital replacing that in our view, because it should just bolster on and be that extra support, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. That's
I think, and even more importantly now, because they've been tied up, locked up. Well, they feel like they've been locked up for so long. And once them youth club doors open, that's it. They're in there. That 2 hours is just freedom for them, isn't it?
It's that feeling when you go into your first pub or go anywhere after lockdown, you go somewhere where you can get social. It's just unbelievable. It really is, and it's I mean, we forget. Well, you sometimes forget, but it's kind of what a period of time we've gone through. And forget about us. What about young people? Wow.
Yeah, I know. And it's for us as youth workers, face to face, we can see, online, they can turn the cameras off, they can turn the microphones off. And, I prefer face to face, but I'm just old.
I don't think, and that's fine. What we found early on is we suddenly realized that when it was full lockdown, you had a position that young people weren't able to go to youth clubs, and then the schools provided access for people who had special requirements or key workers. But I also know that when you check the schools, it was hardly anyone going to those schools. So the idea of these people who needed support were going to the schools wasn't there. So then we kind of realized that the only place that they were actually accessible or anywhere if they had an issue was on social media. So because they weren't going to, because, and then we then plowed heavily into Instagram, and that just went mad. Only because we wanted to know if someone needed something, say for the mic service, they knew where to go, just because there was nothing at the time. And then we had instances of people coming to us and saying, I've tried to contact a particular service. That service has stopped, a mental health service. So we actually have nowhere to go. Can we talk to you? So it worked in that instance. And then there were other instances where people go into emergency services because there was nothing in between. So that worked for that period of time. It's not one I would like to keep. It's one there because it was worked at that point and those access points.
Yeah.
I would hope would never be the case forever. The face-to-face people.
it's just where we were. But the parts that will continue to this day, because sometimes someone wants to contact you, and for me, there's the other bit around. Okay, so if mic service, that's doing that, but shouldn't the mic service also know what youth services are there as part of your person? Oh, did you know that there is a youth worker in your area you could speak to? Did you know this is available, that available? So in a sense, it would be, so that those connections are made.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette.
Thank you.
And we've got one person left that we can squeeze in before we finish. So, Greg, I'm going to quickly bring you in, if that's all right.
Hi, thanks. Just wanted to also make the same point as most people that digital, I can't see ever replacing face-to-face. I think it's there more to, like Marco said, enhance and complement each other. And I can see it being useful at certain times of the year. Yes, the pandemic meant we moved to that, but with winter looming and potentially bad weather, do young people, go outside as often and that? And in a way, the dark evenings, the poor weather and that could move to isolation. So digital platforms does allow us to engage and work with it. Just also taking the point that you said, as we move towards reopening of services and moving out of the pandemic or lesser restrictions, digital engagement did decrease. And I've definitely noticed that from my service area. But like anything, I think we can become, we've got digital and we create some stuff, but then we become stagnant with it. Same as youth clubs, same as all our face-to-face work. If we didn't change, alter, plan appropriately, they become stagnant. I've seen youth clubs that tried the same old every week, didn't bother with new activities. They become empty vessels. And that's what we have to do with digital as well, is just not rest on our laurels, think, right, I've got digital now, the young people that come to us. We then have to continually adapt, make it engagement and come up with fun activities through digital platforms that young people then, I'll join in again tonight because it's fun and just engaging rather than just a chat like this. This might work for so many weeks, but like I said, even in the youth club environment, if all you did was sit around and talk, the young people would vote with their feet and not come. So yeah, just taking that point, I know digital engagement has reduced, but that's up to us then as professionals to continually adapt with it and come up with new, invigorating, fun ways to.
Totally, Greg. We've got to keep moving forward. As you were speaking, all I could think of is Zoom parties, online parties.
That's right, yes.
They were great at first, and then they became boring as hell.
Yeah, I know we talked about that at the beginning. I think everybody on a Friday night had a Zoom party. Yeah. Then they moved to quizzes, so we adapted, and then we just sort of, that's it now. But you can continually adapt, and if that means via a different platform and just chatting via text rather than visual, that's the way they prefer. But yeah, it's just, don't rest on your laurels. Engagement isn't going to disappear, but it will only enhance and complement face-to-face work. But as with face-to-face work, where we got to continually adapt and come up with new refreshing ideas to engage young people, I think we will always have to do the same with digital. And if there is a move from one platform to the other, or a different moving from rather the video to text, or whatever it may be, it is just continual development and moving with the times.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Greg.
No, thank you.
Right, we are at 1:45, which I think, according to the timetable I've got, is the end of the session. So thank you very much for everyone for getting involved in the session. It's been great to have the content on the Jamboard, through the discussion on the chat, and also those who have joined us in the on screen as well. As we said, our details are in the bottom of this. So if you scroll down to the bottom, Marco and my email addresses are down there. So if you are interested in getting involved with some of the digital work we are doing moving forward, we're not sure what it looks like yet because it's a bit of a transition period now. However, if anyone does want to get involved, please feel free to drop us an email and we can add those in. As Marco said, the Jamboard will stay live, so you can reflect on some of the content that was discussed and explore some of those points. And we will be looking to take this on and to feed this back into the digital group that we sit on, to sort of help guide, develop, and use your thoughts and comments moving forward. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, that's great. Thanks. I'm just going to say, chat. Thanks for the active involvement. I mean, I haven't felt too alone here, honest. And that's great. It's good. I think it's interesting how much of this stirs. Yeah. And I think we're moving on now. So thank you very much, everybody.
Yes.
I thoroughly, I think I've enjoyed it. No, I have enjoyed it.
I have.
Great. Yeah, it's good.